আমার নাম শিল্পী, আমি হাজারীবাগ বউবাজার থাকি। আমার জন্মস্থানে এখানে। আমার পরিবার 3 জন সদস্য আছে, 2 মেয়ে আর আমি। তার বাবা মারা গেছে আমার ছোট মেয়ে 2 বছর রাইখা। তখন আমার বড় মেয়ের 6 বছর বয়স। তখন আমার মাও ছিল, মাটা আমার প্রতিবন্ধী ছিল। তখন আমার সাহায্য করার কেউ ছিল না, আমার নিজেরটা নিজের যুদ্ধ করে চলতে হয়েছে। তখন আমি এক বাসায় কাজ করতাম 3000 টাকা বেতন। তখন ওটা আমার পুষতো না দেখা আমি আবার হাজারীবাগ আসছি। আমি এই কোম্পানিতে একটা জব করি টেবিল অপারেটর হিসেবে। আর আমার স্যালারি 9500 টাকা, ওটা দিয়ে আমার সংসার চলে। আমি কাজের সাথে যুক্ত আছি আজকে 11 বছর ধরে।
నా పేరు శోభ. ఇప్పుడైతే ప్రస్తుతం చిత్తబండి కొట్టుకొని ఆ పిల్లల్ని చూసుకొని స్కూల్ అది చూసుకుంటారు. నేను మార్నింగ్ 5కి లేస్తాను. 5కి లేచి ఇంట్లో పని మొత్తం చేసుకొని పిల్లలకి వంట కుక్ చేసి నేను మా 7కి 6:30 7కి వెళ్ళిపోతాను చిత్తబండి. అయితే నాకు వచ్చేసి 400 ఉంటాయి ఇల్లు అయితే కౌంట్ ప్రకారం లెక్క పెడితే. మాకైతే గవర్నమెంట్ అయితే 1 రూపాయి కూడా ఇవ్వదు కదా సార్. వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చే డబ్బులతోటే బండికి ఏమైనా రిపేర్ అయినా బండి చూసుకోవాలి, దాని డీజిల్ చూసుకోవాలి, మళ్ళీ మా ఖర్చులు చూసుకోవాలి, మా ఇంట్లో అన్నీ తీయాలి దానికి. చేతకాలేసి ఇంటికి వచ్చి మళ్ళా స్నానం చేసుకొని తినేసరికల్లా ఒక 2-3 అవుతుంది. మాకు అంత టైం పడుతుంది. మళ్ళీ పిల్లల్ని స్కూల్ నుంచి తీసుకొచ్చే పిల్లలకి మళ్ళీ ప్యారేజ్ పిల్లల్ని ట్యూషన్ పంపించేసి మళ్ళీ పిల్లలకి కుక్ చేసి వంట చేసి మళ్ళీ ట్యూషన్ నుంచి తీసుకొచ్చి వాళ్ళకి తిని పెట్టి పడుకునేసరికల్లా 9-9:30 అవుతుంది. అలాంటి నేను చనిపోయిన సరికల్లా నాకు ఇంకా భయం వేసింది. ఏంది ఎప్పుడు లేదు కదా, ఎందుకు ఇట్లా చేసుకున్నారు, కనీసము నా గురించి కాకుండా పిల్లల గురించి అని ఆలోచన. అమ్మ నేనేం చేసుకున్నా, పిల్లలు ఎట్లా బతకాలి, నా పిల్లలు ఎట్లా చేయాలి అని ఆలోచన చేసింది. అంటే ఆ మైండ్లో ఏం ఆలోచించుకున్నాడు ఏం కదా అసలు నాకేం కూడా తెలియదు. అయితే మా ఆయన చనిపోయాక నాకు స్కూల్ ఫీజు కట్టడం చాలా కొంచెం ఇబ్బంది అనిపించింది.
My name is Sharad Dabala. I am a sociologist by training, and currently I am the chair of Basic Income Earth Network and also coordinator of India Network for Basic Income. A basic income is a regular cash payment given to all people unconditionally. It recognizes the fact that we all need cash to survive in money-based societies. Its core purpose is to provide people with the economic security they need to live dignified lives and to replace the patchy social nets many of us fall through with a solid, secure floor on which we can stand.
My name is Vibhor. I'm a researcher at the University of Bath. I'm from Delhi originally, and I've spent most of my life working with people living in urban poverty as well as in the tribal parts of northern India.
Traditional social policy in South Asia, much like many other parts of the world, fails on many grounds. It's often accompanied with abusive and stigmatizing conditionalities. It fails to reach many of the people in need, and it's often abusively paternalistic. We need a new paradigm. a system that reaches all people, recognizes their needs, but also gives the control of their lives back into their hands.
వాతావరణ పరిస్థితి ఒకటైనా ఇండివిజువల్గా ఒక్కొక్కళ్ళకు ఉండే సమస్యలు వివిధ రకాలుగా ఉంటాయి. ఎందుకంటే నేను గతంలో ఈ ఎన్జిఓస్ వర్క్ చేస్తున్న క్రమంలో కొంతమంది స్కాలర్షిప్స్ అని ఇచ్చేది పిల్లలకి. ఆ అమ్మాయి చాలా బాగా చదువుతుందని గవర్నమెంట్ స్కూల్లో చదువుతుంది, బుక్స్ అవి అన్నీ ఇచ్చారు, పిల్లల చదువులకు ఉపయోగించండి అని ఒక 20,000 ఆ అమ్మాయి పేరు మీద బ్యాంక్లో ఉన్నాయి. ప్రతి ఇయర్ వస్తున్న డబ్బులు అమ్మాయి పేరు మీద బ్యాంక్లో ఉన్నాయి. వాళ్ళ మదరు చాలా సిక్ అయింది, ఆరోగ్యం అస్సలు బాగాలే, వాళ్ళ దగ్గర డబ్బులు లేవు, ఆ ఆరోగ్యానికి డబ్బులు వాడే పరిస్థితి లేదు. అది చాలా దయనీయ పరిస్థితి. ఎదురుగా డబ్బులు ఉన్నాయి కానీ ఆరోగ్యం బాగు చేసుకోలేని పరిస్థితి. ఇది నన్ను చాలా కదిలించింది. ఎవరిమైనా మనం డబ్బులు వాళ్ళకి సహాయం చేస్తున్నామంటే వాళ్ళకు ఒక ఫ్రీడమ్ ఇవ్వాలి. వాళ్ళకి ఏది అవసరం అనేది మనం ఎలా జడ్జి చేస్తాం?
Pilot project, it was basically a combination of two things. One is an unconditional cash transfer to individuals in 5 bastis, and along with that we've also been organizing the communities in a way that they could organize themselves to solve their community's problems.
প্রথমত যদি আমি বলি যে আমার নিজের অন্য কাজের অভিজ্ঞতার সাথে এই প্রোগ্রামের কাজের কোন পার্থক্যটা ছিল, প্রথমত বলবো অন্য অনেক প্রোগ্রামে থাকে একটা প্রি ডিজাইন একটা ইন্টারভেনশন মডেল থাকে, ঠিক সেই ইন্টারভেনশন মডেল নিয়েই সেই একটা কমিউনিটিতে যাওয়া হয় এবং সেই ইন্টারভেনশনগুলোই মূলত একটা কমিউনিটিতে ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করা হয়। আমরা এই জন্য প্রথমত এই কমিউনিটির মানুষের চাহিদাগুলো বোঝার চেষ্টা করা হয়েছে এবং তাদের সাথে পরামর্শ করে তারা যেই সমস্যাগুলোকে তাদের কমিউনিটির সবচেয়ে বড় সমস্যাগুলো মনে করে এবং যেই সমস্যাটা তারা প্রথমত সমাধান করার
কি করছো টাকা তুমি ব্যাগ গাড়ি কিনে দিয়েছিলাম, হ্যাঁ নিয়ে পলাইছে কিছু আমি জানতে কি গাড়ি কিনছিলাম, সিট কিনছিলাম মনে হয় ঘরে আসলে বাসায় আমি 50 মিনিট অটো কিনলাম মধ্যে নিয়ে পলাইছে পরে এখন আমি আর কি কিস্তি টানতেছি প্রতি মাসে 5,000 টাকা কিস্তি প্রতি মাসে আমি
It was a very difficult time because we were coming in the wake of the horrific second wave of the pandemic in India, which had wreaked so much devastation. And the history and the reality of urban poverty in India is one of invisibilization, one of dehumanization. The urban poor are forgotten or hidden anytime something important happens, and the same was true in the pandemic. So when we came into these communities and spoke to people about the idea of an unconditional cash transfer, of unconditional community work, they saw us with the appropriate amount of suspicion.
హాయ్ అమ్మ, ఈరోజు నువ్వు ఒక్కదాన్ని ఉన్నావు ఇంట్లో? అమ్మ లేదు.
నా పేరు సురేష్. ఇప్పుడు ప్రస్తుతానికైతే ముగ్గు వ్యాపారం చేస్తున్నాను. అది రోజు పొద్దున్నే లేచి పొద్దున 5:30కి బయలుదేరుతాం. ఇక్కడ నుంచి 12 o'clock వరకు తిరుగుతాం. 12 o'clock నుంచి మళ్ళీ తిరిగి వచ్చేస్తాం. ఇంకా అప్పటి నుంచి ఏదైనా చిన్న చిన్న పనులు ఏమైనా ఉంటే చూసుకుంటాం. రోజు ఒక 1,000 రూపాయల నుంచి 700-1,000 రూపాయల వరకు మేము వస్తాం సార్. అందులో పెట్టుబడి మొత్తం పోతే ఒక 500-600 మాకు గిట్టుబాటు అవుతుంది సార్. సార్ ఇది మేము మాకున్న పరిస్థితులు మేము ఎలా ఉంది అంటే చిన్న చిన్న ఫైనాన్సులు తీసుకొని రోజువారీ ఫైనాన్సులు తీసుకొని ఒకరితోనే ఇప్పుడు పెద్ద మొత్తంలో అప్పులు తీసుకొని మేము చేసేవాళ్ళం సార్. చేసి నెలకు ఇంత డైలీ వీక్లీ వారానికి ఒకసారి నెలకు ఒకసారి కట్టేవాళ్ళం ఉన్నాం. మనకు ఆ రోజుల వరకు మనకు డబ్బులు ఉండొచ్చు, ఉండకపోవచ్చు. వాళ్ళకి ఇవ్వాలనే ఒక మానసిక క్షోభ అయితే ఉంటుంది. సరే, హోప్స్ ఉన్నాయి, మాకు నమ్మకం ఉంది చేస్తారు అన్నట్టు, కానీ ఫ్రీగా డబ్బులు ఎందుకు ఇస్తారు, వాళ్ళకి ఏం లాభం అన్న ఆలోచనలో మేము ఉన్నాం. నిజంగా ఇస్తారా, వాళ్ళకి ఏం అవసరం మాకు డబ్బులు ఇవ్వడానికి అన్న ఆలోచన అయితే మా దగ్గర ఉండే. ఎప్పుడైతే ఈ ప్రోగ్రామ్ స్టార్ట్ అయిందో మేము కొంచెం నమ్మడం మొదలుపెట్టాము.
The concept of universal basic income itself, this is something that we were not very familiar with. But then once we started getting involved into it, and once we started seeing the transformation that is taking place in people in terms of their nutrition, in terms of their mobility, in terms of their acquiring basic needs that they are able to meet, this is something that has been astounding.
টাকাটা দেওয়ার সময় কোনো সতর্ক ছিল না, বলছে আপনার মতন আপনি খরচ করেন, কিন্তু কাজে খরচ করেন, বিয়ের কাজে খরচ করেন না। আর আমি পেয়েও অনেক খুশি। এরকম যদি আরও যদি করতো, হ্যাঁ, আমাদের মতন ফ্যামিলি একটু আগায় যেত পিছের দিকে। আমি অর্থটা কাজে লাগাইছি, আমার মেয়ের কোচিংয়ের বেতন দিচ্ছি, আর দ্বিতীয়ত আমি একটা সেলাই মেশিন কিনে দিচ্ছি।
আমার নাম সুস্মিতা আক্তার মিতু। আমি বর্তমানে রায়ের বাজার হাই স্কুলে ক্লাস 10-এ পড়ি। সেই টাকাগুলো দিয়ে তার সাথে আম্মু কিছু টাকা অন্যের থেকে ধার নিয়ে আমাকে স্কুলে ভর্তি করে দিয়েছিল। আমার স্কুল বন্ধ হয়েছিল করোনার কারণে। তারপর আর আমি এই নতুন করে স্কুলে ভর্তি হই। স্কুলে ভর্তি হওয়ার পরে এখন ভালোভাবে পড়ালেখা করছি।
అట్లా వేయడం జరిగింది. అయితే నాకైతే పర్లేదు, వచ్చింది కానీ అయితే వాషింగ్ మిషన్కి నేను ఫైనాన్స్ తీసుకున్నాను. దానికి అకౌంట్ ఉంది కాబట్టి ఒక 2-3 మంత్స్కి వెళ్ళి తీసుకొచ్చుకోవడం, దానికి కొన్ని కట్టడం లాభం అనిపించింది. ఇప్పుడు దానివల్ల నా పని తొందర చేసుకోగలుగుతున్నాను, ఎందుకంటే వాషింగ్ మిషన్ తీసుకొచ్చుకున్నా కాబట్టి నా పిల్లలకి తొందరగా వాళ్ళకి కరెక్ట్ టైంకి డ్రెస్ చేంజ్ చేసి ఇవ్వగలుగుతున్నా. అది కంప్లీట్ అయిపోయినాక ఇంకా టీవీ కూడా తీసుకున్నా. టీవీకి వచ్చేసి టీవీ కూడా 5,000 కట్టినాను, డౌన్ పేమెంట్. అది కూడా టీవీకి 2,500 కట్టాలి 1 మంత్కి వచ్చేసి. నేను అట్లా ఒక 6 మంత్స్ కట్టినాను టీవీ అంటే. దానివల్ల నా టైం కూడా వస్తుంది, సేవ్ అవుతుంది. ఇంకొకటి ఏంటంటే ఎవరింటికి నా పిల్లలు వెళ్ళకుండా ఇంట్లో కూర్చొని టీవీ చూసుకున్నారు, దానికి కొంచెం హెల్ప్ అయింది.
మేము డైలీ ఫైనాన్స్ తీసుకునేవాళ్ళం, అలా చేసి తీసుకునేవాళ్ళం. అలాంటి చిన్న చిన్న మొత్తాలు ఇవి రావడం వల్ల అవి కొంచెం కొంచెం తగ్గుకుంటూ వస్తున్నాయి. ఈ వర్క్ ఫ్రీ ప్రోగ్రాం వల్ల కట్టి మనం దాన్ని లెవెల్ చేసుకుంటూ ఆ అప్పును తీర్చుకుంటూ ఈ 18 నెలల్లో కొంతవరకు మేము తీర్చుకున్నాం సార్. ఒక 50,000 వరకు నేను అప్పు తీర్చేస్తాను. అది నాకు బాగా సపోర్టివ్గా వచ్చింది.
আমার নাম শেফালি। আমার ঘরের সদস্য 6 জন, ছেলে 2 ছেলে, আমার শাশুড় শাশুড়ি, আমরা জামাই বউ 2 জন, আমার হাজবেন্ড আর আমি, 6 জন সদস্য। আমার ছেলে লেখাপড়া করে, আমি হাত পাঞ্জার কাজ করি, আর আমার জামাই হাজবেন্ড ড্রাইভারি চাকরি করে। আমি এই এলাকায় প্রায় 20 বছর ধরে, ছোটোকালে আইছি এই এলাকায়, প্রায় 20 বছর হয়ে গেছে এই এলাকায়। এলাকার ভিতরে চামড়ায় পাওয়া যায়। এই বড় ট্যানারির থনে নিয়ে এসে এই জায়গায় দাগাই কাটি, এরপরে কাটিং করি, করে তারপর অন্য জায়গায় বিক্রি করি, মানে পাশাপাশি বিক্রি করি, বেশি দূরে যাইতে হয় না। সেই কাজ ছাইরা দিছি। আমি টিটিএসের টাকা প্রথমে পাইছি, আমার ছেলের স্কুলে ভর্তি করাইছি, আর তৃতীয় টাকা দিয়ে আমি এই ব্যবসায় 3,000 টাকা লাগাইছি। এই এন্তনে আমার ব্যবসা শুরু। যে এরকম মন চাইতেছে আইতাছি যাইতাছি, নিজের কাম 1 ঘন্টা করি আর 1 ঘন্টা জিরাই, শরীরে আরাম হয়, এটাই। পড়ার চাকরি করলে তো এটা পারতাম না, সময় মতো যাইতে হইতো, সময় মতো আইতে হইতো। না, অনেক গুরুত্ব দেয়, আগে গুরুত্ব দিত না, এখন অনেক গুরুত্ব দেয়। এর কাছে দেখেছি সময় মতো ঘরে ঢুকতে পারতাম না, চিলে হইতো ঘরে অসময়ে গেলে। এখন নিজের ইচ্ছে মতো কাম করতেছি, ঘরে যাইতাছি, এটাই গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। ছেলে মেয়ের স্কুলে দিয়ে আইতে পারতাছি। আমার অনেক ইচ্ছা এই ব্যবসা অনেক বড় করার, অনেক ইচ্ছা, জানি আমার জায়গায় আরও 3-4 জন কাজ করতে পারে আমার ওসিলায়। আমি এটা চাইতেছি, কারণ আমার ওসিলায় যেন আরও 5 জন কাজ করে খাইতে পারে আমার কারখানায়, এটা আমার ইচ্ছে।
The lives of most of our participants are marked by such deep material insecurity and indignity that the innovation of a Cash Plus program was always going to provide them immediate relief.
These projects recognize that cash is a vital prerequisite for people to be able to live secure and decent lives. But they also recognize that cash isn't enough to engender the transformation needed. And that's where the plus, the community organizing, comes in. This approach to community organizing differs from the approaches that have traditionally been used by governments and by civil society, because they are rooted in a sense of solidarity rather than charity. They are needs-based, participatory, democratic, and aim to work with rather than on communities. The idea is that alongside the economic power, one can also build relational power to try to collectively find solutions to collectively identified problems.
ఇవన్నీ ప్రతి మనిషికి ఉన్న అవసరాలు. ఎంఎస్ఐ మీకు మహా అయితే ఒక పుష్ ఇవ్వగలదు. అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఈ పడవ ముందుకుపోవాలంటే వెనకాల మోటార్ పెడతామో లేదా కర్రతో ఇట్లా అంటేనే పోతాం. ఎంఎస్ఐ అలాగా ఒక తోపు ఇవ్వగలదు అంతే. మహా అయితే ఇప్పుడు ఆ పైన తెరచాప ఉంది కదా, తెరచాప దిశగా వెళ్ళాలంటే గాలి బాగా వస్తే పడవ ముందుకు, అలాంటి ఒక గాలి లాగా ఉపయోగపడుతుందేమో కానీ ఈ పడవ మీరే, ఆ పైన తెరచాప మీరే, అంటే ఇవన్నీ మీకు మీరే చేసుకోగలరు.
The plus component, I think, is the best part of this whole program. This plus part that brings people together, to meet together, to talk to one another, and to explore themselves. It's not just money being transferred, but then it is also building communities. Building communities of people who otherwise perhaps had no opportunity to talk to each other. They are neighbors, but then they never had an opportunity to sit in a context in which they are able to dialogue with each other and create communities. And in the process of creating communities, the transformation that takes place both individually and for the community as a whole.
অ্যাসাইনকৃত 87টা পরিবার ছিল যাদেরকে আমি 2 মাস অন্তর ভিজিট করতাম, এবং এই পরিবারগুলোতে তাদের নিড অনুযায়ী যদি কোনো সাপোর্ট করা যায়, কেস ওয়ার্কের মাধ্যমে কোনো সার্ভিসে যদি প্রয়োজন হয় সেখানে রেফার করা, বা তাদের যদি কোনো প্রয়োজনীয় তথ্য দরকার হয় সেক্ষেত্রে তাদেরকে তথ্য দিয়ে সহযোগিতা। তাছাড়া হচ্ছে এই কমিউনিটিতে আমি একটি গ্রুপ ছিল, ফিমেল হেডেড গ্রুপ, সেই গ্রুপে একজন ফ্যাসিলিটেটর হিসেবে কাজ করেছি গ্রুপটার সাথে, এবং প্রতি মাসে একবার করে আমাদের একটা হেলথ ক্যাম্প হতো। সেখানে আমাদের কমিউনিটির অ্যাডাল্ট যারা ছিল তাদের সহযোগিতা নিয়ে প্রতি মাসে একবার করে একটা হেলথ ক্যাম্প করা হতো সেখানে আমরা, এবং দেখা যেত আমাদের বিভিন্ন দিবসে বা নিড অনুযায়ী, শিশুদের নিড অনুযায়ী টিএফটি করা হতো, তো আমি শিশুদেরকে টিএফটি করানোর ক্ষেত্রে সহযোগিতা করতাম।
నేను గత 23-24 సంవత్సరాల నుండి నేను ఎన్జిఓలో పనిచేస్తున్నా. అక్కడికి వెళ్ళేటప్పుడు ఏదో చేయాలి, వాళ్ళు ఏదో మనకు చేయాలి, మనం ఏదో వాళ్ళకి చేయాలి అనే మైండ్తో వెళ్ళినప్పుడు ఆ పనులు కానప్పుడు డిప్రెషన్, కొంచెం డల్ అయిపోతున్నాం. అలా కాకుండా వాళ్ళు ఏం చెప్తారు, వాళ్ళకి ఏది అవసరమో దాని గురించే మనం మాట్లాడి వాళ్ళలో మనం ఒకళ్ళం, మనము వాళ్ళు నేనేదో పెద్ద మేడంను నేను ఇది చేస్తా అది చేస్తా అన్న టైప్లో కాకుండా వాళ్ళతో పాటు ఏది చేద్దాం, ఎక్కడికి పోదాం, ఈ ఆఫీస్కి పోతే ఈ పని అయింది, అక్కడికి పోతే ఆయన కలుస్తాడు, ఇలా నన్ను కూడా వాళ్ళతో కలుపుకొని చేయడం అనేది ఇది మెయిన్గా సేవియర్ నుంచి ఫెసిలిటేటర్ రోల్కి రావడం అనేది చాలా నచ్చింది.
The people who collect the waste, they come from a socially extremely depressed groups. Now in this process of collectivization, in this process of dialogue, in this process of meeting one another, sharing of problems and sharing of needs, people begin to realize, yeah, this work is important because it is such an important component of keeping the city clean. When they form a collective, come together, then find that it is a common experience. And if it is a common experience, then common answers need to be found, common demands need to be formulated. And this is precisely what is happening. And in this process, I think we are already seeing that exploitative nature of this work and the workers is being gradually transformed.
అట్లా మీటింగ్ల వల్ల అయితే కొన్ని తెలుసుకున్నాం, ఎవరితో మనం ఎట్లా ఉండాలి, ఏం కథ, ఏం మాట్లాడాలి, ఎక్కడికి వెళ్తే ఏ పనులు అయితే ఎవరితో ఎట్లా మాట్లాడాలి. ఎవరితో అప్పుడు భయపడాలంటే అమ్మ వాళ్ళు వస్తారు, వాళ్ళతో ఏమంటారు ఏమో, ఎట్లా మాట్లాడాలి ఏమో అని కానీ భయం ఉండేది. ఎందుకు భయపడాలి, మన గురించి మనం అడగడానికి ఎందుకు భయపడాలి అనే దాని గురించి ఒక ధైర్యం తీసుకొని అందరితో మన లీడర్తో కూడా మనం మాట్లాడదాం. అవును రోడ్ వేయలేదు, మీరు వెళ్ళి చెప్తారా, ఇప్పుడు మేమే వెళ్ళాలా అనేసి మేము కూడా డైరెక్ట్ మాట్లాడేస్తాం వాళ్ళకి. ఇంతకుముందుకు ఒకసారి మీటింగ్ పెట్టుకున్నప్పుడు చెప్పినాం, ఏంది చెత్తలను గౌరవించాలి, చెత్త బండికి వచ్చేసి కనీసం 1 ఇయర్కి ఒకసారైనా ఒక 20,000-25,000 ఇస్తే మా బండ్ల రిపేర్లు కానీ మేము పెట్టుకుంటాం. ఇంకొకటి వచ్చేసి మాకు కూడా కొన్ని అది ఏమన్నారు, మాది ఈఎఫ్ఐ ఈసీఐ కార్డు ఉంటుంది, హెల్త్ కార్డు, అది కూడా ఇవ్వాలని చెప్పేసి డిమాండ్ చేస్తున్నాం సార్. దాంట్లో రాసుకున్నాం కూడా, పేపర్ ఉంది, ఆ పేపర్ కూడా కొంచెం గవర్నమెంట్ చూసి ఏమన్నా అలాంటి వారు కూడా కొంచెం చూస్తే బెస్ట్ అనుకుంటున్నాం.
చిల్డ్రన్ ట్యూషన్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ అవి జరిగాయి. దానికి షెడ్ మీ అందరం కలిసి అందరూ ఒక కొంచెం అమౌంట్ అంటే ఒక 100-150 రూపాయలు అలా అందరం కలిసి ఒక 25 మంది 30 మంది కలిసి అందరం కలిసి ఒక 5,000 వరకు పోగు చేసి ఆ పిల్లలకి షెడ్డు అవి తయారు చేసాం.
మనము ఇప్పుడు ఏమనుకుంటున్నాము, ఇది అయితే స్లమ్ లెవెల్,
ఒకరు విషయాలు మాట్లాడుకొని పిల్లలకి ఇది ఇష్యూ అని చేసాం. ఆ ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ వల్ల కొత్తది అంటే సార్, ఏ ఒక్క మనిషి మీద ఆధారపడకూడదు, ప్రతి మనిషికి మాట్లాడే సమయం ఇవ్వాలి, చెప్పింది ప్రతి ఒక్కరు వినాలి, ప్రతి మనిషి వచ్చి మీ సలహా దాంట్లో ఇవ్వాలి.
আমাদের দলের নাম ছিল কমিউনিটি ডেভেলপমেন্ট গ্রুপ। আমরা মূলত পরিষ্কার পরিচ্ছন্নতা নিয়ে কাজ করতাম। আমরা সর্বপ্রথম একটি কাজ করেছিলাম, 2টা বাড়িতে নিজেরা হাতে ঝাড়ু নিয়ে পরিষ্কার করে দিয়েছিলাম, সাথে কিছু পোস্টার ব্যানার লাগিয়েছিলাম, কার্টুনের তৈরি কিছু বক্স বানিয়ে ওখানে ডাস্টবিন হিসেবে দিয়েছিলাম। তারপর ধীরে ধীরে আমাদের কাজটা একটু বাড়ে, আমরা উঠান বৈঠক করা শুরু করি, তারপর কিছু বাসায় গাছ লাগিয়েছি এবং আমরা দেওয়ালিকা করেছি। অনেক জায়গায় অনেকগুলো দেওয়ালে ছবি এঁকেছি, অনেক কথা লিখেছি, মানুষের জন্য পথনাটক করেছি কয়েকবার।
When your lives are like those of our participants and you are dealing with this hydra-like behemoth that is poverty, caste, discrimination, marginalization, invisibilization, in many cases strong dehumanization of your very existence, it is unlikely that any one intervention will fix the problem. The first step is the recognition that you exist, you matter, your voice and your needs matter. And I believe in many ways cash transfers are that recognition of your basic humanity. You exist and you deserve to exist, you deserve to live a life of dignity, and therefore you have this. And subsequently, it's about empowering people with the technologies, voices and spaces to be able to push back against the structures that have put them in this place. The unifying logic, therefore, is one of recognition but also of care. you should not be living in a house where the water is trickling down from the roof and the walls. But also we see you, you are with us, we are with you. And then how do we then move from that place to a place of transformation? And that's where the solidarity in the relationships move from just recognition to care, but also to action.
We are born, and from the time we are born, practically conditionality becomes part of our psyche. In the families where we grow in the political systems, in the communities. Now, when we talk of unconditionality, we are talking about autonomy of the human person. In other words, people are the best judges of the path that they need to take in their process of development, in the process of their personal growth, community's growth, meeting needs. And I think this is what makes unconditionality extremely important for the human person and for communities.
আমি চাইতেছি আমি মেয়ের আগে পড়াবো, কিন্তু এখনও তো যেই পরিস্থিতি, আমি আর মনে হয় মেট্রিক পরীক্ষা দেওয়ার পর আর পড়াতে পারবো না, এত খরচা দিয়ে আমি পারবো না। কীভাবে পড়াবো? আমার তো বোঝেন আয় যেরকম ব্যয় ওরকম করতে হবে। ওখানে যে পরিস্থিতি, সব কিছুর দাম। একটা কোচিংয়ে একটা মাস্টার বর্তমানে 3টা মাস্টার দিয়ে পড়ে, আর সামনে আরও 2টা মাস্টার লাগতে পারে, তখন আমি কোথায় চালাবো? ভর্তিতে অনেক টাকা যায়, তারপরেও আরও আছে।
অনেকেও এখনও অসহায় আছে, এরকম প্রোগ্রাম থাকলে ভালো হয়, অনেক ভালো হয়। কারণ অনেক ফ্যামিলি আছে চলতে পারে না, খাইতে পারে না, অনেক কষ্ট, ছেলে মেয়েরা বাদ দেয় না, তারপরেও কাজ করে খায়, অনেক কষ্ট। এরকম প্রোগ্রাম থাকলে অবশ্যই ভালো হয়, দেখশুন করতে বা আয়া বাড়ি ঘরে আয়া খবর লইতে পারে, বাসায় যা খবর লইতে পারে, আপনারা কেমন আছেন, কীরকম চলতেছেন, কীভাবে দিন যাইতেছে, এরকম জিগায়, অনেক ভালো।
అవి మనకు ఆత్మగౌరవం విషయంలో ఇలాంటివి చాలా సపోర్ట్ చేస్తారు సార్. ఇప్పుడు నెలకు అంటే ఇప్పుడు మాకు 18 నెలలు వచ్చాయి సార్. మాకు భార్యకు మా అమ్మకు అందరం కలిసి 5,000 రూపాయల వరకు వచ్చాయి సార్. ₹1,00,000 ఒక పేదవానికి ఆ ₹1,00,000 అప్పు తీర్చేస్తే ఎవరు వచ్చి అడగరు కదా సార్. అదే ఆత్మగౌరవం. అది వీళ్ళు మమ్మల్ని
పర్వాలేదు, బాగానే అనిపిస్తుంది. ఏటి డబ్బులు వేయడం వల్ల 18 నెలలు ఇంకా వేస్తే బాగుండు అని కూడా ఉంది. వేస్తే బాగుండు అని కూడా అనుకుంటున్నా. కానీ అది గవర్నమెంట్ అని చేస్తే ఎప్పటికీ ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి గవర్నమెంట్ ఆలోచించాలి. నేనంటే నా లక్ష్యం ఏంటంటే నాకంటూ నేను కష్టం చేసి ఒక ఇల్లు కట్టుకోవాలి, ఒక ప్లేస్ కొనుక్కొని నాకంటూ ఒక ఇల్లు ఉండాలి, నా పిల్లలు అందులో పెట్టుకొని నా పిల్లలకి ఏ కష్టం రాకుండా, ఎవరితో ఒక హెల్ప్ కాకుండా నా కష్టం చేసుకొని నా పిల్లలు నేను చదువుకోవాలి అనేది నా.
ప్రతి కుటుంబానికి ఇంత నగదు అనేది ఉంటే వాళ్ళు చాలా భరోసాగా బతుకుతారు అనేది మాకు ఈ ప్రాజెక్ట్ వల్ల అర్థమైంది. దాన్ని ఎలా అమలుపరచాలి, దానికి ఎలా ఫెసిలిటేట్ చేయగలుగుతాం మన తరఫు నుండి అనేది నాకు ఎప్పుడూ అది మనసులో మెదులుతుంది. దానికి కూడా ఏదైనా కార్యాచరణ దాదాపుగా మొదలుపెట్టాము. ఉన్న పొలిటికల్ లీడర్స్ దగ్గరికి మేనిఫెస్టో రూపంగా ఇచ్చాము. ఇచ్చి ఊరుకోవడమే కాదు, అది అమలు అయ్యేదాకా కూడా ఈ పోరాటం సాగాలనేది నేను అనుకుంటున్నాను.
I think that the quintessence of universal basic income is the unconditionality, and I mean that takes you in all directions. It takes you to spirituality, it takes into love, unconditional love. The powerful tell us there is no alternative to the way we do things now, that this is how it has to be. But that's not true. And what we have seen here with unconditional basic income and community work rooted in love is that there is an alternative, and it is unconditional.
I'm sure the movie evoked several emotions as we watched the lives of Shobha, Shefali, Suresh, and others. Uh, I've been part of these pilots in Hyderabad, leading the community work. So every time I watch this, I go back into those memories of how those conversations brought how UBI and the community work can mean so much. I mean, just as a quick thing, Shefali says that with her first month's cash transfer itself, she put her child in the school. It's a small amount. It's just 3,000 Bangladeshi taka, which is 25 USD. With $25, somebody could start going back to school. And in 3 months, she started her own business. And she says that I want to expand this, scale up this business and give opportunity to more people like me. That means there is a sense of aspiration that you're not just thinking about today. You want to send your kids to a good school and give them a good future. You're not just thinking about your food and your survival today, but you want to do a business, expand and think about future. So I think that's the underlying principle that stands out as an output, a sense of security. Amidst all this insecurity, chaos, uncertainty, especially last week we were in Malaysia and I was saying that Confucius said 2000 years ago, insecurity is more worse than poverty, because poverty is predictable. You know you're poor, but insecurity is not. You do not know how tomorrow is going to be, and that will eat you up every day. So Yanu proposed that we could club this session and the next one into a panel. So what I'll do is I'll quickly give some insights and reflections from these three pilots, and I can share more thoughts in the panel. First of all, work free is given for 18 months, 1,000 rupees per person for 1,250 individuals, and this has tremendously changed how people have spent either on their consumption, on their financial, improvement, or future, thinking into future. Next one. So this slide shows where the money has gone into. Okay, we've conducted 3 quantitative surveys: baseline, midline, endline. I put that in how much is it? 200,000, approximately 200,000 IDR. So for each individual, that was the amount. If it's a child, it is 100,000 IDR. So the kids' money went into the mother's account. That's the arrangement. And in Clarissa also, it's $25 per individual. And if there is, for every child, extra $5 per month. That's the arrangement. So in all the 3 research quantitative surveys, coupled with qualitative interviews, focus group discussions, we've realized that people started spending on household items first, which is groceries, food, vegetables, and improved their nutrition. And then slowly they started sending their kids to better schools. Government schools, public schools are not that great. So poor people do not have a choice but to send their children to government schools. But if you have a choice, they will send it to private schools. In the UBI movement, we argue that UBI should be included with a basket of goods. That means there should be good public education, public health care, delivery of public services like transport. Some services government should be there, should do well. It cannot be given away to the private and leave the country to dogs. But along with but until the public services improve, what should people do until then? They have a choice with this money to send their kids to better schools. And people were able to go to a hospital. Until then, if you have any problem, you would just go to a pharmacy, take over the counter medication, and just hope that things will get sorted. But now people started going from a medical shop, a pharmacy, to a doctor, to better quality healthcare. People purchased vehicle. A small anecdote there would be one woman always wanted to buy a two-wheeler, a vehicle, but couldn't. So when this money started coming, she said to her husband, "We are getting this money, right? So shall we buy this?" She is a tailor. She stitches clothes for a living, and she said that if I have this vehicle, I can improve my business. I can go deliver the finished product. I can do better work. But until this money started, the family was like, "No, this is a good idea, but we cannot afford." But once this started, and once she proposed it to her husband said, "Okay, we will do that, but not necessarily with this money. We will use it with our own money." That means, and let us continue giving this basic income to our kids' education. So the point here is that they always had the money to afford a vehicle, but they were not sure, they were not confident. But once this extra space cushion was visible, then they realized that they took an extra step, a confident step to do things. So that's what basic income does. Labor. So a lot of the participants in Work Free are garbage collectors, but also women are domestic help. They go around to houses helping as a maid, and they earn a small amounts out of that. But people are forced to do it under any circumstances, that they do not have a choice to stop doing that. Even pregnant women up until 8th month would go to do the work, which is not suggested. In the project, some women have told us that they stopped going to work and took care of themselves, took good food, and took some rest. So they made a labor choice there, right? One other story is one person who is a painter said, we asked him, "What do you do?" and all of that. He said, "I paint, so if I get a painting work, I go do it. If I don't get a work, I just sit at home." But after the basic income started coming, we went again in the middle and asked, what is he doing? He said, "I do the painting, but I am also planning to buy a auto rickshaw and run that auto rickshaw to get some extra income." He said, "I also want to put a food cart. My wife will prepare the food and we will sell it and earn some extra income." We asked, "Are your loans cleared? How are you financially?" He said, "The loans are slowly getting cleared. I already do not have the money." But how are you able to think about these big things? You do not have stable work yet, but you are already talking about these things. Then he said, "Sir, that is correct. Right now I do not have the money. But once this money started coming, I am able to think about tomorrow. I am starting to think about my children, that I should save money or invest it or do something so that I can give better opportunities to my kids." So this kind of financial security, that if today is taken care of, I can think about tomorrow, has been very, very widely visible in the entire pilot. So these are some stories, and people started eating better food, eggs, meat, milk, frequency of buying fruits has increased. So these could be minute things. These are not visible, but once we started asking them, then they were like, "Oh yes, we wouldn't have thought about this if not for the questions." So the research showed that overall quality of nutrition has improved. Next. This is a micro pilot that we conducted. It's with the transgender persons. It's called Basic Income and Care for Transgender Persons. For 10 individuals, we've given 7,000 INR per person. That should be, I don't know. So about $80 for 10 individuals. It's a micro pilot. And along with this cash transfer, we've also conducted some care workshops. In this pilot, we've realized that transgender persons generally are forced by the society into professions such as sex work and begging. they are not taken into any other jobs even though they are educated, even though they have qualification. But after getting this basic income, they were able to say no to that work, at least in the space they had, and they were able to take a pause. They were able to go back to school, educate themselves. And a lot of times gender and sexual minorities, when people reveal what their identity is, families disown them. There is a conflict within the family itself. But basic income was able to, repair that conflict and wound and bring back the family, because now these persons could send some money home and support the family. So that way, alongside financial security and social value, there is a strong freedom to say no. To say no to exploitative work, abusive work, and underpaid work, all of that. Next one. So like I mentioned, there is a choice to say yes or no, independence, and people have transition from education to work to education. Somebody who is, for example, I'm studying. So one transgender person in this pilot is a doctor. Has finished her medical graduation and is just ready to go and work. But in that process, it's not that you will immediately find a job after your education, right? So that cushion is needed to transition between education and work, and this money has supported that person to transition. And similarly, while working as a doctor, she got an opportunity to go into post-graduation and study. But the scholarship will not start immediately, which means she has to survive on her own without a job, but as a student for some time. And during that time also, this money was helpful to pay for her rent, pay for her, small things, and then she could transition and survive based on her scholarship, etc. So in unimaginable ways, this creates a buffer where people can fall back on and can stand on dignity. Next. The final basic income pilot that I would like to share is called Clarissa. So Clarissa is conducted in Bangladesh. The primary aim was to help tackle child labor. In Dhaka, there's a huge child labor problem. So it's called Unconditional Cash Transfer Plus program, which means the plus element here is social work, counselors going and helping families, like we've seen in the film. The lady says, right, that we've created groups of families and supported them in receiving their entitlements and other things. But with the money, they were able to ensure they do not have to fight food insecurity. There is sufficient stocks of food, and then children could stop doing this child labor and go back to school. And like Shafali was saying, people started businesses, small businesses. With 3 months of basic income, one could start a business. And the other person in Hyderabad, they were also saying that we want to save this money and put it in a business. So when basic income is given, because of the unconditionality, people have the choice to use it the way they want. They can either use it for today's consumption, or to clear previous loans, or to invest in tomorrow through a business, or saving, or save for children's education, you see, or just go home, spend on traveling to go to your village. Some people did that. They said, earlier I couldn't go home to my village as frequently as I wanted to meet my family because I didn't have the money. But now I can do that. That means people are taking decisions on their own, not by circumstances. So there is an active choice and agency that they are able to exercise because of basic income. So those are the 3 quick updates on the pilot. Just basically that, and to say that people were able to absorb the financial health shocks, because there is no insurance, right? In most places, people cannot afford an insurance, or they do not know that about insurance. They either go to public hospitals and medical shops and just survive on their own. But once this kind of money started coming, thanks to Clarissa, there was also a financial literacy element in the plus. they were able to absorb that shocks, health shocks especially, and not be worried about out-of-pocket expenditure, and that created a sense of resilience in the face of crisis. So that's few thoughts. Next slide. So our hub is trying to advocate for basic income across Asia Pacific region. Like I said, between Pakistan to New Zealand and some more islands. We've been in Malaysia last week, Nepal, now in Indonesia, and all these countries. The kind of engagement that we're having with all of you and everywhere is encouraging that each of our countries have a unique context, and in this context we have to place this idea and understand how we can implement this, what kind of financial resources we should use, how much should it be given, and at what frequency. All these are questions that each country should decide on its own rather than anybody else telling us how to do. Especially most of our welfare policy has been dictated by how, like Sharath was saying, like how development paradigms have got structured are based on how they sit and think that you will get developed in the way I tell you, through international financing organizations or I don't know, several things that have been hugely problematic. So at APAC we strongly believe in this hub that Global South has its own context, and we are under a constantly ecological crisis, natural disasters, aging population without a security. People are retiring without any security. Young people do not have jobs after they finish their education. So demographic dividends are turning into demographic disasters because there's no space to translate this into a meaningful work. And even if people are going to work has been exploitative, underpaid, without dignity, and there are so many other things I would like to bring up in the panel discussion. So please, next slide. Please follow us on our Instagram, and next. This is another QR. So we post our work on our Instagram, and we are trying to build huge networks within these regions and share our learnings. In each of these meetings that have been conducted in all these countries, we were able to learn very, very new things. Yesterday we were at PKB party office, and the questions that came, the kind of enthusiasm that came in there. And last week in Malaysia, they were bringing perspectives from zakat, how zakat could be brought into UBI. So these connections are very important, and we would really like to be connected with all of you. And if you would like to, Yanu is doing great work in Indonesia. Thanks to him for doing this and facilitating such extremely wonderful presence of diverse stakeholders from academics, researchers, politicians, people from social development sector. So all of you should, if you are interested, please consider volunteering, and we are also open as BN APAC to take this message to the last mile. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Terima kasih untuk John. Mungkin kita akan lanjut terlebih dahulu ya. Jika nanti ada pertanyaan bisa kita satukan dengan narasumber yang akan setelah ini.